Despite what that badge says, this is no longer a Mitsubishi ASX really. It's based on the Renault Captur, including the platform, much of the bodywork and the powertrain. Now that's thanks to the Renault, Nissan, Mitsubishi kind of group all falling under the same company umbrella. I think it brings both good things and bad things to the ASX badge. Firstly, it is more expensive, about $5,000 to $10,000 more than the previous ASX equivalent variant level. So it does lose some of its cheap and cheerful charm. And I think that is depicted in the latest design. This is very much, sophisticated European styling, heaps of attention to detail. I actually really like these alloy wheels, how they're a little bit dished, black as well. And they got these fat tires which actually stick out further than the rim. Just looks really cool. Mitsubishi has tried to incorporate its own design theme with the front grille and the badge and all of that, but all of the body panels and everything are pretty much identical to the Renault. But, and fair enough, previous ASX fans might have appreciated the kind of basic formula of that package, especially when a lot of fleet buyers, hire car companies used the ASX. Now, being a bit more sophisticated, a bit more classy, you might be worried about damaging it or whatever and getting replacement parts which could be more expensive. The previous ASX was quite large for its category of SUV. Had an upright cabin orientation, tall windows so you could see out of it really easily, plenty of headroom and legroom in the back, whereas this new model, it seems like more of a hatchback when you first look at it. And underneath you've got a switch to torsion beam rear suspension compared with the previous more comprehensive multi-link setup. Interestingly, boot space has increased over the previous model. You've got just under 500 litres here with the rear seats up and just under 1600 litres with the rear seats down. You do have a dual level floor. You can actually take this panel out. It is a massive pain to get back into its slot. But yeah, you can just leave that panel out and obviously maximize the boot space. On paper, this has got around 100 litres more space with the rear seats up and around 400 to 500 litres more compared with the previous ASX with the rear seats folded. But this doesn't come with a space saver spare or full-size spare under the floor there. You've got a repair kit only. That sacrifices the boot space. And it does seem like it's smaller than the previous ASX when you just look at it. But on paper, it might be different measuring standards actually as well. This is a French-based vehicle compared with the previous ASX Japanese-based model. So the measuring standards might be a little bit different. But yeah, on paper, you do have more boot space, sacrificing a spare wheel. And then inside, definitely more upmarket, more sophisticated. You've got this multi-texture fabric for the seats. They look really cool and they've got nice side bolstering. A sculpted dashboard with a protruding pod that sticks out for the gear selector. Plenty of storage around the place. You've got rubber lining there as well. Yeah, this is definitely more sophisticated and classier, and I guess more interesting in here compared with the previous model in terms of design. Like there's a lot more going on, but the previous model was pretty basic and straightforward. Again, some buyers might have appreciated that. They just want to get in and drive it. They don't have to worry about thinking, don't have to worry about looking where to put things or anything like that. Whereas this, you've got to just learn where everything is and just understand what it's all about. There are still physical controls for the climate, which is great to see, but most functions are within the touchscreen. The touchscreen itself is pretty easy to understand once you spend some time with it. You've got a main menu across the top, a home button, which is great to see. Just selected the apps page, just typical grid layout for your apps. That's all well and good. Then you've got your vehicle settings. Speaking of which, this button down here I really like. It's basically your driver assistance systems. Just double tap that and then you can configure the driver assistance systems with the Perso mode. Go into the settings here. You can turn emergency lane assist off. That way when you get in the vehicle, just double tap that, just confirm, and then you're in your favorite settings. I think that's the best method for all this ADAS stuff. If you find some of this technology frustrating, you just get in, bang, bang, it's all set up in your own configuration. Very easy. And we've also got different drive modes, a sport mode, and various settings you can play around with for the vehicle. Passenger space is pretty good. It does feel a bit more confined and a bit more intimate in here compared with the previous model. Just the way the dash protrudes out, you've got all these bits and pieces. Yeah, it does seem like more of a coupe style or hatchback style of SUV rather than the old upright package, which was just really approachable, really friendly, but a little bit basic perhaps. And then up at the back, yeah, it definitely feels a little bit more confined, although my head's nowhere near the ceiling and I've got decent knee room here in my seating position. I'm 170 centimeters. So I've still got a decent amount of room. It just feels a little bit more confined, just the way that it's designed. And actually getting in, my head gets very close to that pillar, and that's not usually the case for me, even in a small SUV like this. You don't have a center folding armrest, unfortunately, but you do have climate vents in the back of the center console, a trio of charging options, pockets in the backs of the front seats, and medium-sized bottle holders in the doors. I do like the upholstery of this latest model with the different textures, but some of the trim is pretty basic. Like this is all black. You do have a bit of soft touch for your armrest, but the rest of it is just monotone and yeah, probably a little bit basic considering the price has jumped up over the previous model, which was also a little bit basic like that too. And then under the bonnet, we've got a 1.3 litre turbo-petrol 4-cylinder engine, 113 kilowatts, 270 Newton meters. It's a little bit down on power compared with the previous 2.4, but it does offer a little bit more torque. It's matched up to a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission with front-wheel drive only. With a switch to turbocharging, the engine is a bit more sophisticated, a bit more complex than the previous 2-litre and 2.4 ASX. So yeah, that comes with its good bits and bad bits. Fuel economy is improved quite a bit, from about 7.9 in the 2.4 to 6.4 in this 1.3. Fuel range is about the same. It's actually 50 kilometers less in this because this has a smaller fuel tank because it chews less fuel anyway. So yeah, if you want absolute range, I think the 2.4 was about average 800 kilometers range using the official average combined consumption rate, whereas this is about 750 now. But it's good to see this can run on 91 RON fuel like the previous model. So if you are looking to cut down on running costs, yeah, you can technically run this on 91 and save some money. All right, let's take it for a drive and see how it handles. I think it is going to handle a lot better than the previous ASX. Not that it was bad. I mean, it did have the multi-link rear suspension setup. It was just a bit basic. It wasn't designed to be a handling package, whereas this, based on a Renault has a long history with hot hatches and hatchbacks and so on. They usually offer a very well sorted package. So we'll take it for a drive and see. With a switch to a turbocharged engine, I think it does improve the driving enjoyment a little bit, at least from the perspective of a driving enthusiast. You know, you've got a bit of a bassy note now, a bit more character with the engine. So it's got a turbo surge, a bit of torque pushing you along, whereas the old engines, naturally aspirated, produced a bit of a tinny sound and were quite linear in terms of their, or progressive in terms of their delivery of power and torque. Not much in terms of mid-range, whereas now you've got this, yeah, definite nice chunky surge in the mid-range. And now with a dual clutch automatic, it's obviously a bit more engaging as well compared with the previous CVT setups. In terms of fuel consumption, I'm averaging 7.1 litres per 100 kilometres, which is not far off the official average. I reckon with extended regular use, you might even see that dip down closer to the official rating in the mid-6s in the real world. Fit and finish and refinement seems to be pretty good, but there's a little rattle in this door that I'm trying to get rid of. You might not be able to hear it on camera, but there's a little something in the door. It could be, I don't know, dirt or a bit of debris or something. But other than that, it is definitely more refined than the previous package, because it was, yeah, a little bit hollow and a little bit tinny inside and echoey, whereas now it is, even just with the furniture, the way it's all designed, it's going to absorb the sounds. It doesn't just bounce around in the cabin. So in that sense, you know, you're paying for a bit more refinement and you are getting a little bit more refinement over the previous model. Again though, it just depends on your preferences. You might like the basic engine setup, less to go wrong, I guess, and you might like that basic interior setup, you know, just more space. Don't worry about the fancy stuff. Everything's there, but just, yeah, concentrate on the job of driving and getting passengers from A to B. Whereas now I think it's a bit more character to it, a bit more theatre, which is, yeah, in good and bad ways. Now in terms of the ride and handling, this does definitely feel a little bit more like a hatchback compared with the previous model, which, you know, had a bit of body roll. It's a bit higher centre of gravity. This is it does feel lower to the ground. So the steering is much sharper than before. You can just dart into the corners and so on, get a good response. Previous setup was a bit basic, a bit straightforward. Again, you might prefer that, that's fair enough. But this is, I think, targeting those who want a bit more sophistication, a bit more refinement in the drive, and a bit more enjoyment. I think this, you know, I would enjoy driving this down this road more so than the previous model, put it that way. It's still comfortable, it's not too firm. There's just a little bit less body roll, body movement, so you can just focus on getting around the corners with slightly improved dynamics. And with that engine giving you that mid-range surge, yeah, look, I think it is a better package, at least from the perspective of a driving enthusiast. Okay, going back down, we'll flick it over into the sport mode. Now you don't have, you've got paddle shifters, but there doesn't seem to be a manual mode. Like, you just hit the gear selector again, it's still in D. There's no sort of sideways movement or anything like that. Not that I can find anyway. My driving, that's just giving you a eco score. Steering effort, you can actually change these around, which is pretty cool. So it's a bit adaptive, or a bit customizable. Let's just go full throttle. Actually, we'll do that again in so we're in second gear, full throttle. Yes, I will upshift by itself. These paddles are just there for a recommendation, I guess. It will prompt a downshift like just then, and then you can flick the upshift paddle when you want to. It give you that bit more engagement. But it's not like a hardcore hot hatch. It's not designed to be, it's not pretending to be. It's just got that slight bit more engagement compared with a regular SUV that might otherwise not have paddle shifters. And if you just leave it like that, it will eventually just run back into the D mode and shift automatically. With the sport mode, it's definitely a sharper throttle response. It feels a little bit more eager. It doesn't change the suspension or anything like that. It's mainly about the throttle sensitivity and the steering feel. Overall, this is definitely a sportier driving experience than the previous model. Like, I can take it down a winding road like this and enjoy myself a little bit. It's got that hot hatch appeal slightly. It's not super fast, but I think the mid-range pull is the most addictive thing here. Like, it really just surges along and doesn't feel like it's really strained. The engine note, while a little bit bassier than the previous model, it's not that loud. You can just hear it kind of humming in the background. But I'm threading it through these tight corners, hard on the brakes, throw it in. Good traction, full throttle. Yeah, it's doing really well for this type of vehicle anyway. Again, this is not pretending to be or trying to be a hot hatch, but I can definitely feel that it does have some heritage under there. All right, let's head off now and do the performance test and see how it goes.